Hi, my name is Isabella Palazzolo, and this is China and America, the New Geopolitical Equation. Starting off with the introduction, the US and China have faced friction even before China's current president Xi Jinping. Inauguration of President Donald Trump equaled uncertainty, but there was an appearance of cooperation shown between both presidents. For the last 15 years, China has implemented an expansive strategy of economic outreach and growth of national capacities, including military and diplomatic power. The question that remains is, can the US and China improve their global relations? In 2013, China's global share of gross domestic product exceeded that of the US for the first time. A spring 2017 poll by the Pew Research Center found that although more countries globally still name the US as the world's leading power over China, the gap is narrowing. Although the image of China as unstoppable power is very overstated, and Beijing's leader risk themselves for overestimating their own strengths. US plus China always should equal cooperation. The state of play in Washington. President Trump continues to call for greater security contributions from U.S. allies. He has conveyed reassurances to partners that Washington still values its allies, in particular the North American Treaty Organization. In April 2017, President Trump and President Xi met to rearrange the Barack Obama era. Strategic and economic dialogue by agreeing to establish 4 parallel consultation mechanisms focusing on core economic, diplomatic, security, cyber, and cultural and human rights frictions. Although there were negative developments, one of them being Trump's withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership and also Trump's stated intention to withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement. With the TPP, Japan was left on its own, but in November 2017 in Da Nang, Vietnam, it was soon resurrected without representing the U.S. The North Korean problem. President Obama told President-elect Trump that the most pressing national security challenge he would face would be North Korea's efforts to advance its nuclear and missile programs and to threaten Asia-Pacific allies, U.S. regional bases, and even continental U.S. Not even a year into Trump's presidency, North Korea has tested missiles over Japan and conducted its 6th nuclear test in September 2017. The ruling Kim dynasty has demonstrated an unshakable commitment to acquiring weapons of mass destruction, believing that it is insurance policy against forcible removal of power. Is this a form of threat? President Trump wrote on Twitter, the U.S. is considering, in addition to other options, stopping all trade with any country doing business with North Korea. The goal of this is to denuclearize North Korea and remove all nuclear weapons of their possession. Executive branch decision-making. Deep divisions on trade policy persist among the president's senior advisors. Nomination and confirmation of officials have been slow. 469 out of 600 key positions requiring state confirmation had been nominated. In State Department, 56 out of 152 positions are filled. In the Defense Department, 26 out of 54, and in the Commerce Department, 10 out of 21. This leaves key agency staff with political and secure personnel. The risk of ill-considered policy, spotty information, and inaction increase. The state of play in Beijing. President Xi had 2 desires. His first was he sought to cultivate stable relations with the Obama administration and then the Trump administration, looking to keep U.S.-China relations on an even keel. Although President Xi wanted to appear tough on the U.S. Even though President Xi has had many political achievements, he still faces constraints and is insecure about the forces streamed below the surface in Chinese society. Anti-corruption campaign had equaled to create enemies among his potential targets, and the Chinese economy is filled with corporate debt. Xi's foreign policy. Washington will be dealing with President Xi as a leader of an increasingly capable China for the foreseeable future. There remains a lot of questions to be asked about this. Under Xi, Beijing has become progressively more assertive in safeguarding national interest and winning more say for China abroad. And President Xi has quoted, "We have entered a post-American era." Xi has asserted sovereignty in the South China Sea, pressured India on its shared border in the Himalayas, pushed along the median line separating Japan and China in the East China Sea, and punished South Korea economically over defensive missile deployments. Also, modernization has taken place in China's military structure, operations, and equipment. Under Xi, there has been progressively closer alignment with Putin's Russia, though important frictions remain between Moscow and Russia. In July 2017, Beijing announced joint naval exercises in the Baltic Sea with Moscow. Geopolitically, Beijing seeks to drive wedges between the U.S. and its allies and close friends: South Korea, the Philippines, Thailand, Australia, Europe, and the associations of Southeast Asian nations. Wants to establish multilateral organization that provide Beijing with new regional and global platforms for action and influence. Beijing no longer accepts U.S. military domination. Consequently, there are periodic Chinese air and sea challenges to U.S. naval and air forces that elevate the risk of accident and miscalculations. Issues and approaches. 2 key policy questions. 1. How to foster an economic balance of power in Asia, and 2. How to achieve more reciprocity in relations with China. The first question is fostering a balance of economic power. Moving into the new millennium, however, U.S. missteps, global developments, and intelligent moves by others have combined to diminish the U.S. relative strength. These factors include 9/11 conflicts, the 2008-2009 financial crisis, China's economic growth, and even more. A central part of Xi Jinping's geo-economic vision is to expand regional links and promote urbanization and economic growth on China's periphery, making China the central node for the region. What should the U.S. response be towards this? The United States needs to become more involved in this plan and work to connect itself in the construction of regional infrastructure and to work not only with the North Sea but also the East and West. Participation from the U.S. companies, foreign aid, and development agencies, allies, and multilateral development agencies would need to take place so that the ties between China and the U.S. would remain on civil terms and would not risk any conflict. Achieving more reciprocity. Once China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, its trade and investment abroad grew enormously, as did the global trade surplus and the U.S. bilateral trade deficit with China. Beijing had the capital, capacity, and technology to take advantage of opportunities abroad. Xi Jinping's initially promised to energize market-based reforms, but throughout the years, his true plan is to pursue a wide range of muscular industrial policies known as Made in China 2025. The issues of reciprocity and fairness has affected U.S.-China relations consequently. In President Trump's trip to China in 2017, the attempt was to address inequities on the trade front, but the actual transactions in the package did very little to address the fundamental issue of the tilted field on which the U.S.-China trading and investment is played out. This is a major problem because unsettling the real issues between U.S.-China trading relations can induce more conflict to occur down the line if nothing becomes resolved. President Trump needs to acknowledge that relations with China need to remain on a civil stance. Therefore, the U.S. should partake in growing its trading instead of choosing a route towards isolation. Negotiating cooperation. The U.S. can continue to advance its interests throughout multilateral trade agreements, or it can do so through bilateral trade agreements, negotiated one by one between Washington and individual countries, as advocated thus far by the Trump administration. The goal is to extract reciprocity from Beijing without hurting itself by bystanders. Security. Washington must decide whether to strive for balance in Asia or to seek to maintain primacy in the region. For North Korea, accept the fact that Pyongyang has nuclear weapons and deter their usage of them or use force against them. With these policies in mind, the U.S. and China need to make conscious efforts to cooperate and to do the best they can to remain at a peaceful stance. Prioritizing the key issues such as North Korea and trade need to be met first in order to remain at a balanced state. And this is my reference.